The bell above the door of Sweet Dreams Bakery chimed softly as I pushed inside, the scent of vanilla and cinnamon wrapping around me like a warm embrace that made what I was about to do even harder. The display cases gleamed with perfect cakes, delicate pastries, and cookies decorated with such artistry they seemed too beautiful to eat. Everything I could not afford. I approached the counter where Mrs. Chen, the owner, was arranging a tray of fresh croissants. She looked up with a smile that faltered slightly when she saw my expression. "Elena." Her voice was warm, but cautious. "Is everything all right?" I gripped my purse tighter, feeling the weight of the decision I had spent 3 sleepless nights making. "I need to cancel the order for Saturday. Luca's birthday cake." "Cancel?" Mrs. Chen's face fell. "But honey, the party is in 2 days. We already started the custom work, the race car design you wanted with his name." "I know." My voice cracked despite my efforts to stay composed. "I am so sorry. I will still pay the deposit. I know it is short notice, but something came up and I cannot afford it right now." The words tasted like ash. "Something came up" was a polite way of saying my car needed emergency repairs that wiped out what I had been saving for 3 months. A polite way of saying I had a choice between fixing the car I needed to get to my 2 jobs or buying my 7-year-old son the birthday cake I had promised him. The car won because without it, we would not have rent next month. Mrs. Chen reached across the counter and squeezed my hand. "Oh, Elena, is there anything I can do? I could reduce the price or—" "No," I cut her off gently. "You have been more than generous already. This is my problem to solve. I will make a cake at home. It will not be as nice, but Luca will understand." That was a lie. Luca was 7. He would not understand why the elaborate race car cake he had been talking about for months suddenly became a homemade box mix cake. He would try to hide his disappointment because that was the kind of sweet kid he was, which would somehow make it worse. I blinked back tears. "Please do not feel bad. I really appreciate all your help." What I did not know, what I could not have known, was that there was someone else in the bakery that morning, someone standing in the corner near the specialty cake section, browsing wedding cake designs with his assistant, close enough to overhear every word of my quiet desperation. Dante Romano was not a man accustomed to feeling things for strangers. At 36, he had spent 15 years building and maintaining his position as the head of the Romano family, one of the city's most powerful criminal organizations. He had learned early that emotion was weakness, that sentiment could get you killed, that the only people who mattered were family and trusted associates. Everyone else was background noise. But something about the woman at the counter, her quiet dignity as she tried not to cry, her determination to pay for something she was canceling, the resignation in her voice when she mentioned making a cake at home. It caught his attention in a way very little did anymore. He watched as she left the bakery, shoulders squared despite the obvious weight she carried. Watched through the window as she climbed into an aging sedan with a dented bumper and sat for a long moment with her forehead pressed against the steering wheel before driving away. "Mrs. Chen." Dante approached the counter, his voice carrying the authority that came naturally after years of command. "The woman who just left. What was the cake order?" Mrs. Chen looked up, recognition flickering across her face. She knew who he was. Everyone in this neighborhood knew who he was. But to her credit, she did not flinch or stammer. "Mr. Romano, I cannot share customer information. I am not asking you to betray confidentiality." Dante pulled out his wallet. "I am asking you to tell me about a cake order so I can pay for it, along with whatever party supplies would make a 7-year-old boy happy. Consider it an anonymous gift." Mrs. Chen studied him for a long moment. "Why?" "Because a child should have a birthday cake." Dante's voice was matter of fact. "Because that woman should not have to choose between car repairs and her son's happiness. Because I can afford it and she cannot. Is that reason enough?" Mrs. Chen's expression softened. It was a race car cake. 3 tiers, blue and white with checkered flags. His name, Luca, on the winner's trophy. She also asked about matching cupcakes but said they were too expensive. "Make the cupcakes." Dante placed several bills on the counter, far more than the order would cost, and decorations, balloons, banners, whatever makes sense for a 7-year-old who likes cars. Have it delivered Saturday morning to her address, anonymously. "That is very kind, Mr. Romano. But how will we explain where it came from? Tell her it is paid for. If she asks questions, tell her someone in the community wanted to help. Nothing more." Dante's tone made it clear the discussion was over. "And Mrs. Chen, this stays between us." "Of course." Dante left the bakery with his assistant Marco following silently behind. They climbed into the black SUV waiting at the curb, and Marco finally spoke. "That was unexpected, boss." Dante did not respond immediately. his mind on the woman with sad eyes and a child who would now have his birthday cake after all. It was a small thing, insignificant in the scope of his world, but for reasons he did not fully understand, it mattered. Saturday morning, I woke early to start Luca's homemade cake. I had boxed mix, frosting, and some toy cars I planned to use as decorations. It would not be the elaborate creation he had wanted, but I would make it with love, and that had to count for something. I was measuring flour when the doorbell rang. Frowning, I wiped my hands on my apron and went to answer. A delivery van was parked at the curb, and a young man stood on my doorstep holding an enormous bakery box. Elena Martinez? He checked his clipboard. Yes? Delivery from Sweet Dreams Bakery. He gestured, and a second person appeared with another box. And there is more in the van. Cupcakes. Decorations. The full order. I stared at him. There must be some mistake. I canceled that order. No mistake. He showed me the receipt with my name and address. All paid for. Where would you like me to set it up? Who paid for it? My voice was sharp with confusion and something close to panic. I did not pay for this. Anonymous donor. That is all I know. He was already heading back to the van for another load. Lady, I just deliver. But whoever paid for this wanted your kid to have a great birthday. You going to turn it down? I should have refused delivery of something I had not paid for. Should have called Mrs. Chen demanding explanations. But Luca appeared in the hallway behind me, still in his pajamas, his eyes widening as he saw the bakery boxes. Mom, is that my cake? And looking at his face, at the hope and joy replacing the careful resignation he had worn when I told him we would have a simple party, I could not say no. Come in, I told the delivery man. Please. They set up everything. The 3-tiered race car cake exactly as I had ordered it. 24 matching cupcakes, balloons, a banner, plates and napkins with race car designs. It was perfect. More perfect than I could have created on my best day with unlimited budget. After they left, I called Mrs. Chen. She answered on the second ring. Mrs. Chen, I just received a delivery. The cake, everything. I did not pay for this. What is going on? Someone wanted to help. Her voice was kind. An anonymous donor heard about your situation and decided to pay for Luca's party. That is all I can tell you. Who? I demanded. Mrs. Chen. I cannot accept charity from strangers. It is not charity. It is kindness. And Elena, whoever did this, wanted it to be anonymous. They did not want recognition or gratitude. They just wanted a little boy to have his birthday cake. Can you accept that? I looked at Luca, who was carefully examining every detail of the cake with wonder. I could accept it for him. Thank you. The words felt inadequate. Please thank whoever did this. Tell them it means everything. I will. The party that afternoon was exactly what I had hoped to give Luca. His friends from school came. They played in the backyard. They ate cake and cupcakes and sang off-key renditions of Happy Birthday. Luca blew out his candles with a smile so bright it made my chest ache. I took photos of everything, wanting to remember this day, this gift from a stranger who had saved my son's birthday. What I did not know was that the stranger was parked across the street, watching the party through tinted windows. Feeling something unfamiliar tighten in his chest at the sight of the boy's happiness. Dante Romano had no logical reason to be there, had no reason to care whether the cake was enjoyed or the party was successful. But he sat in his SUV anyway, watching a life so different from his own, fascinated by its simple sweetness. This is a bad idea, boss, Marco said from the driver's seat. Getting involved with civilians, it never ends well. I am not involved. Dante's voice was sharp. I paid for a cake. That is all. Then why are we sitting here watching a 7-year-old's birthday party? Dante did not have an answer for that. 2 weeks after Luca's birthday, I was loading groceries into my car at the supermarket when a man in an expensive suit approached me. He was tall, dark-haired, with sharp features and eyes that seemed to see everything. Something about him set off alarm bells, though I cannot have said why. Elena Martinez? His voice was smooth, controlled. Yes? I shifted protectively closer to my car. Can I help you? My name is Dante Romano. I own several businesses in this neighborhood. I could not help but notice you at Sweet Dreams Bakery a few weeks ago. My stomach dropped. You were the one who paid for Luca's cake. I was. Dante's expression remained neutral. I hope you do not mind. I overheard your conversation with Mrs. Chen and thought I could help. Mind? I felt anger rising, hot and sharp. You spied on my private conversation and then, what, felt sorry for me. Decided to play hero for the poor single mother? That was not my intention. Dante's voice remained calm. I simply saw someone in a difficult situation and had the means to help. Nothing more. Nothing more. I laughed bitterly. Do you understand how humiliating this is? To find out that some stranger bought my son's birthday cake because he felt sorry for me, like I am a charity case. You are not a charity case. Dante's tone sharpened slightly. You are a woman working hard to provide for her child. There is no shame in that, and there is no shame in accepting help when it is freely offered. I did not ask for your help. I slammed the trunk of my car, and I do not want it. Thank you for the cake. It made my son happy, but please, do not ever do something like that again. I started to get into the car, but Dante stepped closer. Not threatening, but present. May I ask you something? He waited for my reluctant nod. If I had not paid for the cake, what would you have done for Luca's party? I would have made him a cake at home. I met his eyes, defiant. It would not have been as fancy, but it would have been made with love. We would have been fine. I believe you would have been. Dante's voice softened almost imperceptibly. But why should fine be the goal when happy is possible? The question caught me off guard. Because happy is not something I can afford right now. Maybe not alone. But what if you did not have to be alone? I stared at him. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting that I would like to help. Not out of pity. Not to humiliate you. But because I have resources you need. And you have something His pause was barely noticeable. Something I find myself wanting to be around. This cannot be happening. I shook my head. I do not even know you. You are some stranger who paid for a cake and now you want to what? Be in my life? In my son's life? That is insane. Perhaps. Dante pulled a business card from his pocket and held it out. But consider it anyway. If you ever need help, call me. No strings. No expectations. Just someone who can make difficult situations easier. I took the card reflexively, then immediately wanted to throw it back at him. I do not need a savior. Good. Because I am not offering to be one. Dante's eyes held mine. I am offering to be a friend, if you decide you want one. He walked away before I could respond, climbing into a black SUV that screamed money and power. I stood in the parking lot, his business card in my hand, my emotions a tangled mess of anger, humiliation, and something I refused to name. That night, after Luca was asleep, I looked up Dante Romano on my phone. What I found chilled me to the bone. Articles about Romano family businesses, speculation about criminal connections, carefully worded news stories that never quite accused but clearly implied. He was not just wealthy, he was dangerous, connected, possibly a crime lord, and he had paid for my son's birthday cake. I should have thrown away his card, should have forgotten he existed, should have protected myself and Luca from whatever dark world he inhabited. Instead, I put the card in my wallet and tried to convince myself I would never use it. 1 month after the parking lot conversation, my car broke down again. This time, it was the transmission. The repair estimate was $3,000. Money I absolutely did not have. I took the bus to work for 3 days, adding 2 hours to my already exhausting commute. By day 4, I was ready to cry from pure exhaustion. That was when I pulled out Dante's card. I stared at it for a long time. Then, before I could change my mind, I sent a text to the number printed there. This is Elena Martinez. My car broke down. I cannot afford the repair. I do not know why I am texting you. Please ignore this. His response came in less than a minute. What repair shop is handling it? I should not have answered. Should have ignored his message. Should have handled this myself somehow. Instead, I sent him the name of the garage. 2 hours later, the garage called. Miss Martinez, we have some good news. An anonymous donor paid for your transmission repair. You can pick up your car tomorrow. If you have been enjoying this story of unexpected kindness and want to find out if Elena can accept help from a dangerous man, or if some gifts come with too high a price, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I called Dante immediately. You cannot keep doing this. Doing what? His voice was calm. Helping someone who needs it? Buying your way into my life. I was furious and grateful in equal measure. I did not ask for this. No, you did not. But you needed it. And I had the means to provide it. Why is that wrong? Because I do not know what you want from me. My voice broke. People do not just help for no reason. Especially not people like you. People like me. Dante's repetition was flat. What do you think you know about me, Elena? I know what the internet says. About your family, your business, the things people speculate about. And you believe everything you read online? I believe enough to know you are not just some businessman who likes to pay for random cakes and car repairs. What do you really want, Dante? There was a long pause. I want to have dinner with you. Just dinner. No obligations, no expectations. Just 2 people having a meal and a conversation. Why? The question came out as barely a whisper. Because in 36 years, I have never met anyone like you. His honesty was startling. Because I heard you canceling that cake and something in me responded in a way nothing has in years. Because I would like to know you better. Is that so difficult to believe? Yes, I said bluntly. It is. Then let me prove I am sincere. Dante's voice took on a note of determination. Have dinner with me. If you hate it, if you find me unbearable, you never have to see me again. But give me one evening to show you I am more than what the internet says. I thought about it. Really thought. This was dangerous. Stupid. Possibly the worst decision I could make. Okay. The words slipped out before wisdom could stop it. One dinner, but somewhere public. And I drive myself there and home. And Dante, if this turns out to be some manipulation, if you hurt me or my son, I will find a way to make you regret it. His laugh was unexpected. Warm. I would expect nothing less. We met at a small Italian restaurant the following Saturday. I had arranged for my neighbor to watch Luca, carefully screening her questions about where I was going and with whom. Dante was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table that somehow felt both visible and private. He stood as I approached, and I was struck again by how imposing he was. Not threatening, exactly, just present, undeniable. Thank you for coming. He pulled out my chair. I know this is unusual. Unusual is one word for it. I sat, acutely aware of his proximity as he returned to his own seat. Completely insane is another. Fair. Dante's slight smile transformed his face, made him look younger, almost approachable. Let me start with honesty. You researched me. You know what people say about my family, my business. Some of it is true, some is exaggerated. But I will not insult your intelligence by pretending I am just a simple businessman. So you are admitting you are a criminal. My voice was flat. I am admitting I come from a complicated family with complicated business interests. Dante's eyes held mine. I am also admitting that I have spent the past month thinking about you constantly, about your strength, your determination. The way you tried to maintain dignity while canceling that cake, that does not make sense. I shook my head. You do not know me. Then let me know you. Let me ask questions and share answers and see if there is something here worth exploring. Against my better judgment, I stayed, and over the next 3 hours, we talked, really talked. He asked about Luca, about my jobs, about how I ended up as a single mother. I asked about his family, his businesses, what his life looked like day to day. He was surprisingly forthcoming, told me about inheriting the family at 21 when his father was killed, about the weight of responsibility and obligation, about feeling trapped by a role he never chose but could not abandon. I told him about Luca's father, who left when I was pregnant, about building a life alone, about being terrified every day that I was not enough for my son. The conversation flowed easily, too easily. By the time we left the restaurant, I had forgotten to be afraid of him, had forgotten everything except how seen he made me feel, how understood. Can I see you again? Dante asked as we stood beside my car. No repairs needed this time, no ulterior motives, just because I enjoyed tonight and would like to repeat it. I should say no. I knew I should say no. Should protect myself and Luca from whatever complications came with Dante Romano. Instead, I said, call me. Over the next 3 months, Dante became a fixture in my life. We saw each other twice a week, always at public places, always with me maintaining control of the situation. He never pushed, never demanded, never tried to force his way deeper into my world than I was comfortable allowing. But gradually, incrementally, my walls came down. I found myself looking forward to his calls, smiling when I saw his name on my phone, sharing parts of myself I had kept locked away. He told me more about his world, about the legitimate businesses he was building alongside the questionable ones, about his desire to transition the family toward something cleaner, about the difficulties of changing a legacy built on violence and fear. I told him about my dreams for Luca, about wanting to go back to school, about feeling like I was always one disaster away from losing everything. 4 months after our first dinner, Dante asked to meet Luca. I do not know if that is a good idea. My protective instincts flared. He is 7. He does not need to meet my whatever you are. I am someone who cares about his mother. Dante's voice was gentle. Someone who would like to know the child who means everything to her. But Elena, I will not push. This is your decision, your boundary to set. I thought about it for a week. Then I invited Dante to join us at the park on a Saturday afternoon. Nothing formal, just a casual meeting in a public space where Luca would feel comfortable. Watching Dante interact with my son was a revelation. He did not talk down to Luca, did not try too hard to impress. Just engaged with genuine interest in what a 7-year-old found fascinating. Cars, dinosaurs, the playground equipment that was best for climbing. By the end of the afternoon, Luca was chattering away, completely at ease, and Dante was smiling in a way I had never seen before. Open, young, happy. "Mom, can Mr. Dante come to the park with us again?" Luca asked as we walked back to the car. "Maybe." I glanced at Dante. "If he wants to, I want to." Dante's voice was certain. "Very much." 6 months into whatever we were building, Dante's world intruded in a way I could not ignore. I was closing up at the diner where I worked evening shifts when a black SUV pulled up. Not Dante's. This one held 3 men I did not recognize, their intent clear even through the tinted windows. I backed toward the diner's entrance, my hand fumbling for my phone. Before I could call anyone, another vehicle appeared. Dante's SUV. He climbed out along with Marco and 2 other men I had seen with him occasionally. The confrontation was brief, tense. I could not hear the words exchanged, but the message was clear. I was under Dante's protection. Touching me meant war. The other SUV left. Dante approached me where I stood frozen in the doorway. "Are you all right?" His eyes scanned me for injuries. "Did they touch you?" "No." My voice shook. "Who were they? Why were they here?" "Associates who disapprove of my relationship with you." Dante's jaw was tight. "They thought intimidating you would send me a message. They were wrong." "A message about what?" I demanded. "What did I walk into, Dante? What kind of danger did you bring to my life? The kind I will protect you from." Dante stepped closer. "Elena, I knew this might happen. That is why I have had people watching you and Luca for weeks, making sure you were safe, making sure no one from my world could hurt you. You have been having me watched. The violation of it made me step back, without telling me, to keep you safe." Dante's voice was firm. "Because I care about you. Because I knew men like those might try to use you against me. And that is better?" I was shaking now, adrenaline and fear and anger mixing into something toxic. "You unilaterally decided to have me surveilled for my own protection? That is exactly the kind of controlling behavior I was afraid of." "You are right." Dante held up his hands. "I should have told you, should have asked, should have been honest about the risks. I am sorry. Sorry does not fix this. I pulled out my car keys. I need time to think, to decide if this is worth the danger, if I can expose Luca to your world. I understand." Dante stepped back, giving me space. "But Elena, know this. I will keep you and Luca safe whether we are together or not. You are under my protection. That does not change. I do not want to be under anyone's protection. I got into my car. I want to be safe on my own terms." I drove away, watching him in the rearview mirror, until he disappeared from view. For 2 weeks, I did not answer Dante's calls or texts. I needed clarity, needed to decide if what we had was worth the complications he brought. Then, 13 days after the diner incident, something happened that changed everything. Luca and I were grocery shopping when he suddenly clutched his stomach and cried out in pain. Real pain, not the usual 7-year-old drama. His face went pale, and he started to sway. I caught him before he collapsed, called 911 with shaking hands, rode in the ambulance holding my son's hand while he drifted in and out of consciousness. The emergency room was chaos, doctors rushing, tests being ordered, frightening words like appendicitis and emergency surgery and internal bleeding, and me, alone and terrified, with no one to call and no money for the deductibles and co-pays that were already being mentioned. That was when I finally pulled out my phone and texted Dante. "Luca is in the hospital. Emergency surgery. I am scared. I need help." He was there in 20 minutes, found me in the surgical waiting room, makeup smeared from crying, hands shaking so badly I could barely hold my coffee. "Elena." He pulled me into his arms without hesitation, and I let him, clung to him, let myself break down completely for the first time since the ambulance arrived. "He is only 7. I sobbed into Dante's chest. "He is my baby. He has to be okay. He has to. He will be." Dante's voice was certain. "I have already called the best pediatric surgeon in the state. He is on his way. And Elena, cost is not a concern. Whatever Luca needs, he will have." I pulled back to look at him. "Dante, I cannot afford. You do not have to." He cupped my face in his hands. "Let me help. Please, let me take care of this one thing." "Why?" I whispered. "After I pushed you away, after I said I needed space. Why are you here?" "Because I love you." Dante's admission was simple, stark. "Because I have loved you since I saw you canceling that cake with tears in your eyes. Because Luca has become important to me. Because when you need help, I will always come. That is what love means." The surgery took 4 hours. The specialist Dante called arrived within 90 minutes and took over Luca's care. Dante stayed with me the entire time, brought me food I could not eat, coffee I clutched for warmth, quiet presence that kept me from falling apart completely. When the surgeon finally emerged with good news, I collapsed against Dante again. This time not from fear, but from relief so intense it made my knees buckle. You saved him. I looked up at Dante. That surgeon, getting here so fast, that saved Luca's life. Then it was worth every favor I called in. Dante brushed hair from my face. Worth anything. Luca recovered beautifully. The surgeon called it textbook. A week in the hospital. Then home with instructions for rest and no strenuous activity for 6 weeks. During that week, Dante was there every day, bringing Luca's favorite foods, reading to him, making him laugh when he was uncomfortable, being the kind of presence I had never expected from a crime lord. On the 5th day, when Luca was napping and we were alone in the hospital room, Dante took my hand. I need to tell you something. His voice was serious. About my business. About changes I am making. Okay, I was not sure I wanted to hear this, but knew I needed to. I am transitioning out of the problematic operations. Dante met my eyes. Selling interests. Restructuring. It will take time, maybe years, but I am building toward legitimacy. Real legitimacy. Not just fronts. Why? I asked. Why now? Because I want a future with you and Luca. Dante's honesty was stark, and I know that is not possible if I stay in the world I inherited. So I am changing that world. Slowly, carefully, but definitely. That is dangerous. I thought of the men outside the diner. People will not want you to change. I know, and I am handling them. But Elena, I need you to know I am serious about this. About us. About becoming someone you can actually build a life with. I do not need you to change for me. The words felt important. If you change, it has to be for yourself, for your own reasons. It is for both. Dante's slight smile was sad. For myself because I am tired of the violence. For you because I want to deserve you. Can both be true. If you enjoyed this powerful moment and want to see if love can truly transform even the most dangerous man, please subscribe and hit that notification bell for the conclusion of Elena and Dante's story. I thought about it. Really thought. Yes, both can be true. 3 months after Luca's surgery, Dante asked me and Luca to move in with him, not to some ostentatious mansion, but to a comfortable house in a good school district, with a yard where Luca could play. I am not asking for marriage. Dante was careful to be clear, not asking you to commit to anything permanent, just asking if you would consider building a life with me, letting me help make things easier while we figure out if this works long term. What about the danger? I had to ask. The men who tried to intimidate me. Your business transition. What if someone targets Luca? I have round-the-clock security that Luca will never notice. Dante had clearly thought this through. Cameras, guards who look like neighbors, systems that keep you safe without feeling like you are living in a fortress. And Elena, I am moving the family toward legitimate business. Every month. We are cleaner. Every month the danger decreases. You make it sound simple. I smiled despite myself. It is not. No, it is not. Dante acknowledged. It is complicated and messy and will require work, but is that a reason not to try? I looked at this man who had somehow become essential to my life, who had saved my son, who was literally transforming his entire world to build something with me. Okay, the word felt like jumping. Let us try. Moving in together was an adjustment. Luca loved the new house, the big yard, the room that was twice the size of his old one. He loved having Dante around consistently, someone who played with him and listened to his stories and treated him like he mattered. I was more cautious. Old habits of independence died hard. I kept my jobs initially, even though Dante offered to support us. Kept my own bank account. Kept boundaries I was not ready to dissolve. Dante never pushed, never tried to force me into some traditional role. Instead, he adjusted to me, learned my rhythms, respected my need for autonomy while still being present. Slowly, carefully, we built something real. 1 year after I canceled Luca's birthday cake, I stood in our kitchen watching Dante help Luca with homework, listening to them laugh together, seeing the easy affection between them. You are thinking very loudly. Dante looked up. What is on your mind? That my life is unrecognizable. I moved to stand beside him. A year ago, I was a struggling single mother canceling birthday cakes. Now I am living in a beautiful house with a man who... I paused. A man I love, who loves my son. It is surreal. Good surreal or bad surreal? Dante pulled me down to sit beside him. Good. I kissed him softly. Definitely good. Mom. Dante. Luca looked up from his math homework. Can we have a party for my birthday this year? A really big one? Absolutely. Dante ruffled his hair. Whatever you want. Even a race car cake? Luca's eyes sparkled. Especially a race car cake. I smiled. In fact, I think that is a tradition we should keep. That night, after Luca was asleep, Dante and I sat on the back porch, watching fireflies in the yard. "Thank you," I said suddenly, "for that first cake, for seeing me that day, for starting all of this. I should thank you." Dante's arm around my shoulders tightened. "You gave me something to care about beyond obligation and fear. You made me want to be better." "Are you? Better, I mean, than you were a year ago?" "I think so," Dante considered. "I have sold 4 major operations, transitioned 6 others to legitimate frameworks, have not personally approved violence in 8 months. So yes, I am better. Not perfect, but better. That is all anyone can ask." I leaned into him. Continuous improvement. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Dante said quietly, "I want to marry you." "I know," I smiled. "But not yet. Not yet." He agreed easily. "When you are ready. When you trust that this is permanent. When you know I am committed not just to you, but to the life we are building." "How do you know I will ever be ready?" I turned to look at him. "What if I decide I want to stay like this forever? Living together but not married. Then we stay like this forever." Dante's voice was certain. "Elena, I am not going anywhere. Whether we marry or not, I am committed to you and Luca. That does not change." 2 years after the canceled cake, Dante officially left the Romano organization, signed over his interest to his cousin Antonio, someone younger and more interested in maintaining tradition, kept only the legitimate businesses he had built. The transition was not smooth. There were threats, attempts at intimidation. One terrifying week where Luca stayed home from school with extra security while Dante handled challenges to his departure. But he survived it, walked away clean, became simply a businessman with no criminal ties. And I realized I was ready. "Dante Romano," I said one evening as we cooked dinner together, domestic and ordinary. "Ask me again." He looked up from the vegetables he was chopping. "Ask you what?" "You know what?" His smile was slow and beautiful. "Elena Martinez, will you marry me? Will you let me be your husband and Luca's father in all the ways that matter? Will you build a life with me that is normal and boring and absolutely perfect?" "Yes." I kissed him, tomato sauce still on my hands, flour in my hair. Yes to all of it. We married 6 months later. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Luca stood beside Dante as best man, his suit matching his soon-to-be father's, his smile bright enough to light the room. I wore a simple dress, carried sunflowers, walked down the aisle to a man who had somehow transformed from a dangerous stranger in a bakery to the person I trusted most in the world. Our vows were honest. I promised to trust him while maintaining my independence, to build a partnership based on mutual respect, to let him help while not losing myself. Dante promised honesty even when it was uncomfortable, continued growth and change, protection without control, love without possession, and he promised to always make sure Luca had birthday cakes. Amazing, elaborate, beautiful cakes that celebrated the child who had brought us together. 3 years after I canceled that first cake, Luca turned 10. His party was enormous, held in our backyard with what seemed like every child in his grade school. There were games and music and enough sugar to fuel a small army, but the centerpiece was the cake, a 4-tier masterpiece designed to look like a racing track with working lights and detailed cars. More elaborate than anything I could have dreamed of during those struggling early years. "Make a wish, buddy." Dante stood beside Luca, his hand on the boy's shoulder. Luca, who now called Dante Dad without hesitation, closed his eyes and thought for a long moment. Then he blew out the candles while everyone cheered. Later, when the party wound down and Luca was showing his friends his new toys, Dante found me in the kitchen. "What do you think he wished for?" I asked, wrapping my arms around his waist. "Does it matter?" Dante kissed the top of my head. "He has everything a kid could want. A mother who loves him, a home, security, friends, a father who would do anything for him." Because a stranger overheard me canceling a cake, I looked up at Dante. "Because you decided to care about people you did not know. Because I could not care," Dante corrected. "Something about you, about the situation. It got through every defense I had built, and I am so grateful it did." "Me too," I admitted. "Even though you terrified me, even though I fought it, even though I tried to keep you at arm's length, you should have kept me there." Dante's voice was serious. "Should have protected yourself and Luca from my world. You were smart to be cautious, but I would have missed this." I gestured to our home, our life. "Would have missed you becoming the man you are. Would have missed seeing Luca gain a father. Maybe. Or maybe I would have stayed that person in the bakery, trapped in obligation, never growing, never changing. You saved me as much as I helped you." That night, after the guests left and Luca was asleep with sugar-crashed dreams, Dante and I cleaned up the party debris together. It was ordinary, domestic, the kind of scene I never could have imagined during my struggling single mother days. You know what I realized today? I loaded paper plates into a trash bag. I am happy. Genuinely, consistently happy. I cannot remember the last time I felt this way. You deserve it. Dante tied up a bag. Deserve happiness and security and all the things you have now. We deserve it. I corrected. We built this together. You did not just rescue me. You partnered with me. That is different. I know. Dante pulled me close, and I am grateful for the distinction. We stood in our kitchen, surrounded by the debris of a child's birthday party, holding each other in the quiet dark. It was not dramatic, not the stuff of movies or romance novels, just two people who had found each other in the unlikeliest way, who had built something real from an overheard conversation in a bakery. Sometimes I still thought about that day, about standing at Mrs. Chen's counter, trying not to cry as I canceled my son's cake, about the desperation and exhaustion that had colored every moment of my life back then. I thought about Dante, standing in the corner, overhearing something he could have ignored, making a choice to care about strangers, setting in motion a chain of events that transformed both our lives. Do you ever regret it? I asked suddenly. That day in the bakery, getting involved with us, leaving your family business, choosing this life over the power you had. Never. Dante's answer was immediate. Not once. This, he gestured around our home, is real. The rest was obligation and fear dressed up as power. This is actual happiness. Even though it is ordinary, even though you are now just some businessman instead of a crime lord. Especially because of that. Dante kissed me softly. Elena, the most extraordinary thing that ever happened to me was hearing you cancel that cake. Everything good in my life stems from that moment. How could I regret it? I smiled against his lips. Luca and I are pretty lucky too. You know that, right? I hope so. Dante pulled back to look at me. I hope I give you a life worth having, worth choosing every day. You do. I was certain. Every single day. I choose this. Choose you. Choose us. And that, I thought, as we finished cleaning and went to bed in our comfortable home, was the real miracle. Not the stranger who paid for a cake, not the crime lord who walked away from power, but the choice to keep building something together. The choice to trust. The choice to believe that people could change and love could transform. I had canceled a birthday cake, unaware that a Mafia boss was watching. That moment of vulnerability, of quiet desperation, had somehow cracked open both our lives. And what had grown from that crack was beautiful. Complicated but beautiful. Real in a way nothing in my previous life had been. 7 years after that day in Sweet Dreams Bakery, I stood in the same shop with Dante beside me. We were ordering Luca's 14th birthday cake. A sophisticated design now, reflecting his teenage tastes, but still elaborate, still special. Mrs. Chen beamed at us. Every year you come back. I love it. She looked at Dante. You know, I never told Elena this, but that first cake you paid for, I knew then you were going to be important to each other. You did not. I laughed. How could you possibly know? Because of the way he looked at you. Mrs. Chen's smile was knowing, like you were the most important thing in the world. I have been running this bakery for 30 years. I know that look when I see it. She was right. Dante's voice was soft. From that first moment, Elena was the most important thing. I just did not understand it yet. We collected Luca's cake order form and left the bakery hand in hand. The same bakery where everything had started, where a desperate mother and an observant stranger had collided in the most unexpected way. That collision had cost Dante his empire and given me a family, had cost him power and given me security, had taken him from the shadows and brought me into the light, and it was worth it. Every difficult moment, every scary transition, every risk we had taken, because we had built something real, something lasting, something that started with a canceled birthday cake and grew into a love that transformed both our lives. That was our story. Not perfect, not simple, but absolutely, completely ours. And it all began because I canceled a cake, unaware that the right person was listening, the person who would change everything, the person who would show me that sometimes the worst moments become the beginning of the best things. Sometimes strangers become family. Sometimes vulnerability becomes strength. Sometimes canceling a cake becomes the first step toward a completely different life. And sometimes, just sometimes, the dangerous man watching from the corner becomes the safe place you have always needed. That was what happened to us, and I would not change a single moment of it.